Okay, the meeting's now live.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. I am the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Economic Development. My name is Councillor Steve Pitt. Welcome to this meeting, which is being held virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Solicitor has advised that this meeting will be run by reference to the model standing orders as set out in the Local Authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meetings Regulations 2020 number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting, and there has been the opportunity for written representations to be submitted. Those present are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn them on when they are called to speak. Members are requested to keep their cameras turned on at all times. Officers are requested to turn their cameras on only when they are presenting their reports or answering questions. If anyone would like to speak, please write your name and RTS request to speak in the chat function. Councillors, I will come to each of you in turn on every item to make sure that everyone's had the chance to have their say, which makes your lives a little bit easier. If there are any technical difficulties, which there may be, we will endeavour to resolve these, and where necessary, we may have to have a brief adjournment. I'd like to invite those present to introduce themselves. Those who are not able to confirm that they are present will be recorded as absent from the meeting. I don't think that applies to anyone today. We are all here. And I'll come first to the opposition spokespersons on the portfolio. Councillor Jonas.
Councillor Frank Jonas, opposition spokesman representing Hilsey Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
Councillor Stephen Morgan, Labour Group representative.
And Councillor Udy.
Councillor Claire Udy, Portsmouth Progressive People representative.
Okay, thanks all. We are also joined by Councillor Graham Heaney today, who's going to speak on one of the items. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning, Steve.
You are very welcome. We also have a number of Portsmouth City Council officers with us. I'll come to them in the order that I've got on my script. Adrian Rosier.
Good morning, Adrian Rosier, Service Manager for Parks and Open Spaces.
Good morning, Adrian. Claire Looney.
Good morning, Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager in Culture, Leisure and Regulatory Services.
Good morning, Claire. David Moorman.
Good morning, David Moorman. I'm the Strategic Development Manager for Sports and Leisure.
Morning, David. David Evans.
Good morning, I'm David Evans and I'm the Sports and Leisure Facilities Manager for Portsmouth.
Morning, David.
Morning.
Jane Singh.
Morning, I manage tourism and marketing in the Culture, Leisure and Regulatory Services Directorate.
Morning, Jane. Jane Lemaire.
Good morning, I'm Jane Lemaire. I'm the Business Manager for Employment, Learning and Skills in our Economic Development team.
Morning, Jane. Josie Dowling. Oh, is Josie here?
I don't think she is here, but I don't think she's got a report, so I don't think.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Laura Young.
Good morning, I'm Laura Young and I'm the Project Manager for Victoria Park.
Morning, Laura. Mark Pembleton.
Morning, Steve. Morning, everybody. Mark Pembleton, Economic Growth Manager in the Planning and Economic Growth Service of Regeneration.
Good morning, Mark. And we have Sue Page.
Sue Page for representing Finance.
Good morning, Sue. And finally, we're being supported in the meeting today by Lisa Gallagher.
Good morning, Lisa Gallagher, present today from Democratic Services.
Okay, I'm not aware that we have any apologies for absence. Any declarations of interest, members?
Councillor Pitt, just to mention that I am, well, my children are customers of BH Life, but I'm the one who pays it. So just that. Thanks.
That's fine. No other declarations? No? Okay, that's fine. In that case, we'll move on with the agenda this morning, and that takes us to item 3, which is Eastleigh Swimming Pool and Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, and presenting David Moorman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pitt. So this report concerns 2 of our sports and leisure centres in the south of the city, Eastleigh Swimming Pool and Wimbledon Park Sports Centre. And broadly speaking, the report relates to the re-provision of swimming in the southeast of the city and the capital allocation that's already in the existing budget for feasibility work. It also contains recent developments concerning the 2 facilities and their structural condition. So first, Eastleigh Swimming Pool. There are a number of factors at play that mean Eastleigh Swimming Pool is difficult to operate sustainably. Its age, at over 100 years old, its location at the far end of Eastleigh seafront, its configuration in terms of changing facilities. The pool's too deep for stage 1 to 3 swimming lessons. Disabled access is extremely limited, and there is no other offer on site, so no secondary spend. On top of those factors is the condition of the building, which is poor. Following storms at the early part of the year, around January, February 2020, it became clear that there was serious problems with the roof. So we arranged structural surveys, which were completed subsequently, and have now reported that the roof is almost certainly in such a poor condition that it may not be safe to open the pool until the roof is fixed. We are told that there is no repair option. So when I say fixed, in reality, this means a whole new roof, which we think will cost somewhere between 1.3 and 1.7 million pounds. If we did this, the factors I mentioned earlier wouldn't be addressed, and so the customer experience wouldn't be improved, and it's unlikely that the pool would be able to continue to operate sustainably. Secondly, Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, not quite so old, it's a 70s building. It constitutes a 5 badminton court sports hall and a small gym. Around 80% of visits to the centre are for badminton, and the gym is seen as too small really to compete with other offers in the city. The quality of this facility is described as fairly average. The condition of the building is nearing the end of its life. The steel frame components are corroded, the concrete panels are in poor condition, and we advise that unless these are addressed, the centre will have to close in the next 5 to 8 years. Undertaking the required works to keep it open for the next 8 years will cost just under £1 million. And as with Eastney, if we did this, the customer experience wouldn't be addressed. So, with this in mind, officers have undertaken an options appraisal, which is in the report. It concludes that repairing and renovating the existing buildings as they are would not be likely to eliminate the operational losses at these sites. And so, and also the existing barriers to participation would not substantially be addressed. An alternative, albeit more expensive options, would be more likely to result in sustainable high quality leisure offer. This would be either to demolish and rebuild on the existing sites at a cost of around £10 million. But with support from Sport England, who have been involved in discussions with us, for pretty much the same cost to the council, we could combine the two facilities to create a modern multi-sport facility. This would be too big to put on either the Eastney or the Wimbledon site, so it would need to go somewhere else. Clearly, any new location in order to serve the existing customers would need to be broadly in the same area, and officers have identified Bransbury Park as a suitable location adjacent to Eastney Community Centre, which could also be incorporated into the facility as a co-located community health and wellbeing hub. This approach of co-locating sports, leisure and community facilities is most likely to attract Sport England funding. So the recommendations are that the existing £100,000 allocated to feasibility for the new pool at Eastney is redirected towards feasibility for a new combined community sports and leisure centre in the southwest of the city. We've begun a piece of consultation into our sports and leisure facilities, and this is due to report in January. Engagement has been high, with around 1,500 to 1,600 participants responding in the first month or so. The consultation closes on Sunday. Our intention is to bring a full options appraisal to the February the 5th meeting of this portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I went on Radio Silent this morning to give it a plug and try and get as many more people as we possibly can to complete it over the weekend, because that would be helpful. Thank you. Members' questions. I'll go to Councillor Frank Jonas first. Oh, 2 seconds. Graham, can I just confirm, did you want to, was your deputation on this item? It was, wasn't it?
It is, yes. Thank you.
Then we should go to you first, I think, shouldn't we, Lisa? Yes?
Right. Okay, so
yeah. So over to you, Graham.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay, no, Councillor, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. The reason I asked to come and present here at this meeting was because obviously Wimbledon Park Sports Centre is in St Jude Ward, which is the ward I represent, and my deputation more really a series of questions rather than a view at this stage. I mean, obviously, I've seen the press statements that have gone out about the potential options for this, and there's already been some discussion about it. And I can see that there is a bit of a momentum maybe going towards creating a new combined sports centre on Bransbury Park, which is, has a logic to it. But what I wanted to ask some questions about was the future of the Wimbledon Park site, because the report talks about consulting with users and it talks about users, existing users of Eastney and well as the wider community. And I don't quite know what sort of communication or consultation is going to take place with the wider community, because if this site were no longer to be part of the sports offer, i.e. it was to be demolished, which is obviously a possibility, then I think people would want to know a number of things, including I would want to know other things. One is the Wimbledon Park site then going to become a capital asset that is going to be used to support the funding of any new sports centre, sports facility? What then are the implications for the Wimbledon Park site in respect of the planning? Is this now going to be a site that will be sold for maximum capital value? And is this going to be therefore likely to be housing and therefore likely not to include any form of affordable or social housing? If this is going to be a site that's up for development, will there be a planning brief produced for this site, given the size of it and its location? That would normally be the case, but obviously we are having some problems with planning at the moment. And what opportunity would our residents have to have any input into what actually happens on this site, given the decision-making processes the council may go through about funding and or development? So those were my broader concerns about consultation and what is going to happen to this site. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, but we'll need a process that gives members of the public and also ward councils a real opportunity to have a say about what happens, not maybe have a series of options that have already been agreed, which then effectively exclude consultation on certain options for the site. So that's really my concern. I wondered if we could get some, I could have some answers, maybe not all the answers to those questions.
You're probably a meeting early in the process, but they're all very legitimate questions, Graham. So I'll let David answer. But
well, can I just come back on that, because we're meeting early. I mean, I have to say, going back to the meeting we had, the briefing meeting we had on the pyramids. I mean, the meeting we had was very useful and it's very briefing, but I certainly wasn't aware that that was then going to be publicised literally that afternoon, and that there was effectively, from what I understand, no decision-making meeting that will allow people to have a say about what the options were. Maybe I was a bit naive about that at the time and didn't ask questions. I think you made a point that people didn't ask questions. Well, I'd assume there would have been another round of meetings which would involve a cabinet decision at which people would have make representations. So I thought, I'm not going to get caught out like that again. I'm going to ask these questions now so that I don't end up coming to a meeting in January where the options are mostly agreed and we haven't got an opportunity to ask those questions.
No, well, that won't happen. David, did you want to comment on?
Yeah, I think it's you pick up quite rightly on the fact that this if there is to be a new leisure centre, we need to find a way of paying for it. And clearly, Wimbledon Park Sports Centre site is regarded as a potential valuable asset. And so, whilst Councillor Pitt points out that we are very early in this process, and I've been engaging with colleagues from our planning service and regeneration directorate just to sort of make them aware of the potential availability of this site. And I know that they are giving some thought to what may go on that, but I've not seen any plans as yet. So what essentially would happen is if we go through the various stages of approval and the new leisure centre is approved, I would hand over the Wimbledon Park site to colleagues in regeneration, and they would start the process of the development of that site. Now, I'm not a planning expert, but I do believe there is opportunities for consultation on sites, especially ones that are potentially large, like Wimbledon Park's sports centre. I'd have to make inquiries with colleagues to get an accurate programme of what that would look like, and I'm happy to do that. But unlike the decision with the pyramids, which for various reasons there was already a capital allocation, and our consultation would have essentially been, shall we shut the pyramids or shall we do this, which is not a particularly helpful consultation to have. This project will take a lot longer, and we're at a stage where there can be a significant amount of consultation to come.
Yeah, I think what I'd add to that, Graham, is that we don't know the outcome of the consultation that we're having at the moment, which might say that people want Eastney Pool rebuilt on the Eastney Pool site. So if they do, that means for our reasons David's articulated, we can't then co-locate Wimbledon Park Sports Centre facilities with it. and therefore we would have to look to significantly refurbish, or possibly even knock down and rebuild on the existing footprint. Those are all options within the existing round of consultation. So we can't preempt that by saying, well, then we do this and then we do that, because actually it becomes a moot point at that stage, because we'd have to refurbish it and or possibly knock it down and rebuild it as a leisure centre, because we've said that we're not going to reduce the overall provision. We're only looking at co-location. So it is too early to say. We don't want to preempt the outcome of that consultation. Let's see what that says in January. I've already reached out, and I know David's instigated this as well. The service users, all the BH Live customers, have been contacted and encouraged to fill in the survey so we get their feedback. Wimbledon Park Patch contacted me, and I've met with Claire Seek, and she's given me a range of concerns that she had about community consultation, and I've assured her that that would not be a problem, and we will, even if it's appropriate, find a small amount of funding to facilitate any workshops that they want to do, so that we can fully engage with the community there. I've spoken to a number of the badminton groups who use the centre, because we need to make sure that we're replacing the provision either at the Eastney site or elsewhere. And obviously we've got the Ravelin Sports Centre and Charter Academy, where some of that provision may decide to move to. So it's very, very early on in the process, but we've got all of the key stakeholders identified as far as the user groups go. But we want to do a larger community consultation around the whole of the area that's affected, so that they would understand what the process was. And I've been clear when I've spoken about this publicly that my view is that if the council can retain the site and develop it in partnership with the community, with a co-design model, so that we end up realising a capital asset from it, but that we do it in such a way that the community are invested in that decision, and that potentially we include even an element of community facility within it, but not a sports hall, but something else, if that's what the community decide they want, then that's the route we should go down. So you will be fully engaged. As soon as we know the outcome of the consultation, we will then start thinking about next steps. And as David said, it's not really a culture and leisure thing at that point if the decision is that we move forward with Bransbury Park, but nevertheless the Regen team and the housing team are very, very good at this sort of consultation. The work that they did around the records office site on Museum Road, engaging with the community, going out, knocking on doors, not just delivering a leaflet, having workshops, inviting people in for exhibitions, etc., is the sort of model that we will want to do, and obviously the ward councillors are key to that. So do come back in January and find out what the outcome was, and then you can, if you want to make some comments about how you would like to see the process move forward, your view would be very welcome.
I most certainly will. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, was that it, Graham? Anything else you wanted to?
No, I think that's okay. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Jonas, please.
Yes, Steve, I would like to echo some of those sentiments, and if Culture and Leisure does give up the Wimbledon Park site, that the local residents are fully consulted as to what they would like, and if we could accommodate them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, David, for your presentation, and to Councillor Heaney for the deputation. I think, Graham, you make some really important points around the need to engage and work with ward councillors on these significant changes. I had the opportunity to go and visit the sites earlier this year with officers, so saw some of the conditions, certainly at Eastney, and it's not good, but do appreciate that people do really value that asset in the city. I just wanted to expand on the point around engaging existing users. Obviously we're encouraging people to complete the survey, and it'd be appropriate not to know the details of the findings of that just yet, considering it doesn't close until Sunday. But David or Steve, could you just say a bit more around what the feedback has been from, say, the badminton groups and others that use the facilities currently?
So yeah, I've been in contact with the Badminton Club and Hampshire Badminton, and they are concerned that that represents a loss of a facility. But I think they're too early to be concerned, because I think what will happen is when the consultation ends and we get the report back in January, we will have essentially the answer as to which way we go. Do we combine them or do we keep them separate? At that point, if the decision is to combine, there's an opportunity then to make some changes as to what's in the mix, and so we would then speak to the existing users of both sites just to really understand what the facility mix needs to be at the new site, to really understand the needs. So whilst we're doing this larger consultation at the moment to help us answer the big question as to which path we take, that and we do need to understand the local need as well to be able to get the right mix, and also to be able to inform our bid to Sport England, because they absolutely need to see that there is an engagement with the community and an established local need before they'll fund new facilities.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add in on the Eastney front is that what we discovered was that although BH Live had informed all of their members and put the survey out to them, for a sort of GDPR reason, they hadn't sent the survey link to people who had swimming lessons booked there in various forms. So they found a way of doing that that's compliant, and that link has now gone out to all of those users as well, so that we've contacted them, and it's very much a case of you can't just say, well, we're going to do this. Sport England have got to be fully engaged in this process. If we refer back, we know that how we kind of progressed towards this point was that Rachel Fowler from Strategic Leisure was actually funded by Sport England to do all of the prep work around looking at what the future models might look like. What we hadn't anticipated at that point was how fast this would come up on us in terms of needing action. We thought we were looking at maybe a 3 to 5 year plan, not a 1 to 3 year plan, but we are where we are, and we're just trying to move forward quickly, but also very importantly that we include as much engagement around that as possible. So I've spoken to a couple of the badminton groups. I've copied David in on the emails and made sure that he's linked in so that they are there to consult with. It is true to say that some of the badminton groups have already decided to relocate to Mountbatten and are continuing to use that as a facility. And obviously, what kind of got a bit lost in the mix during lockdown was that we renewed our ongoing community engagement relationship with Charter Academy, and there is sports hall facility there as well. And we're getting close now, hopefully, to be confirming the planning condition around the Ravelin sports facility that the university's got around what that community contract will look like in terms of the public being able to gain access to those facilities. And until we've got all of those bits, we can't really decide further on the future of Wimbledon Park, even when we know the outcome of the survey. So there's quite a lot of work still to do. Anything else, Stephen?
Just really quickly on Wimbledon Park, I mean, I see the fantastic cultural diversity we see at those facilities, in particular the British Bengali community that use the facilities. Has there been engagement with that group in terms of their options for the future?
There has.
Yep.
Excellent.
BH Live is engaged with them, and they are well aware, and I understand quite comfortable with relocating to Mountbatten.
Thank you.
I'd actually having that discussion with them before any of this happened, because Wimbledon Park is not a great facility, whereas at Mountbatten they've got much better changing facilities, a much better set of courts to play on, bleacher seating for the spectators. It's just a better offer all round for them. I did discuss it specifically with Mohammed Kadir, who's involved with that group quite heavily, and we also had direct contact with the actual group organizer, because there's a particular concern that we make sure that the Bengali girls are catered for, because it's a really important sporting activity for them, and we've had no negativity back from those groups so far. And if anybody's never been to see our local Bengali groups playing badminton, they definitely should, because it's really exciting.
Thank you for that reassurance.
Okay, Councillor Udy.
Hello, just one question. Just for you, Councillor Pitt, could you just confirm? I know personally, but obviously reading online when people talk about Bransbury Park, because someone says Bransbury Park Sports Centre, people have an imagination that people are going to start cutting down trees and there'll be no more green space left. So can you just confirm that for a lot of people when something was built on it?
No, absolutely. And we've been very clear that the opportunity is to use the site of the existing buildings and potentially some of the sports courts that exists, but still retain the sports courts facilities there as well. So we would still want to retain a mugger. We would still want to retain an artificial pitch on the site. We don't yet know exactly how much we can fit in, but I can assure people the miniature railway is not going anywhere. That was a red line for me, as David knows. I said, you can't move it. It's too precious to people. That would be the same as concreting over the model village. Never going to happen on my watch. Those much loved assets that we definitely need to keep. We will also commit to making sure that the children's play area that's in there may need to be redesigned and moved about a bit, but will be potentially a new facility and of at least the same scale that we've got there now. So it's just about reconfiguring on the existing footprint. And I was also very clear with the people doing the sort of the broad brush bulk and massing on this to give us a rough cost that the trees have all got to stay, and that if anything does have to come down because it is a particular issue with one tree, we are trying to move it first off, and if we can't move it, then we will replace with multiple replacements to make sure that we have no net loss of tree cover. But my preferred option is we don't touch any of them, because I don't think we need to. And thanks for asking it, because you're right. There's been a lot of the people on social media who think we're going to build a blooming great big new building in the middle of this park, which we're not doing, because I walk my dog over there every day, apart from anything else, and I would be very unwelcome by the other park users if I made such a stupid decision. Frank?
Yeah, just to come back, Steve, would the council close the Eastleigh swimming pool and the Wimbledon Park before the new complex, if the new complex goes ahead, is completed?
We may not have an option on Eastleigh. We are trying to be creative with any solution that would enable us to open it in the short term. But health and safety experts have said we cannot open it with the roof in the current condition. So we've even talked about removing the roof and putting some kind of stretch canopy over it for a period of time, if that enables us to do a short-term opening. But as it stands, if we do nothing, then the pool can't reopen because it's just not safe to do so. With Wimbledon Park, however, reopening it in the short term is absolutely possible, and therefore we would want to do that until such point as, if the decision is that we are going to move to Bransbury, that it needs to close. But that's certainly for the next year or so. I don't see any reason why that site can't be reopened and continue to be used. Okay. Members, any other questions on this item? No? Okay, in that case, David, I just wanted to say thank you, because you put in a huge amount of work to this, and I know that you're trying very, very hard to make sure you're engaging with every stakeholder you can possibly find in the community, and we'll make sure that we ramp that up and get all the ward councillors involved in the new year once we know what the outcome of the consultation is.
Thanks very much.
So, thank you very much indeed. So those decisions are made and noted, Lisa. Item 4 is the Visit Portsmouth Update and Tourism Marketing Communication Plan 2021-2022. Over to Jane Singh for that.
Good morning, everybody. This is an update on activity that the Visit Portsmouth team have taken to date this year, and an outline of our plans for future marketing activity and partner support. I'm sure you're all aware how crucial tourism is to the city and how challenging the COVID-19 situation has and continues to be for tourism businesses in the city. Our small team leads on destination marketing, including the main marketing vehicles, the Visit Portsmouth website, and the related social media in the Visit Portsmouth publications. A stakeholder report was circulated in October, giving an overview of activity undertaken by the team to communicate with and support partners through the initial lockdown, the reopening, and marketing the destination through to the second lockdown that we've just been through. This report is attached as an appendix. Along with the local digital marketing, we joined regional and national campaigns, including a Visit Hampshire campaign, which got government funding to encourage visits to the city in a safe way, of course. We've now created our communications plan for the next 2 years. This will need to be a living document, and our marketing as agile as possible, as we're in such changeable times at the moment. The focus will continue to be on digital marketing, including a refreshed Visit Portsmouth website, and we will look to first rebuild our domestic market for day trips and short breaks. We will, of course, work with local partners on campaigns targeting key markets, and these will be further developed as we move through the year, next year, and have a better idea of restrictions, changes to tiers, etc. We'll continue also to market to the groups in international markets, especially Europe, and we will also work closely with our colleagues at the International Port as regards the challenges of Brexit, of course, and messaging. We see supporting our local tourism businesses as really key, and we'll offer all of these promotion through our digital channels at an entry level at no charge. Through additional budget that we've been allocated this year, thank you, we've been able to offer existing advertisers in our Portsmouth publications a 75% reduction, and these have been really well received. Those publications will be out shortly, just before Christmas, hopefully, and distributed from the new year. I've made sure they've been written in a less time-specific way, so that if we do find ourselves still in a difficult situation next year, we can continue to use them. We will continue to bid for marketing funds as they become available, and we'll be working with regional partners to engage with the Southern Leps Visitor Economy Recovery Plan. The recommendations in this report are to agree this Tourism Marketing Communications Plan 2021-2022 and to note the achievements of the team this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jane. Members, Councillor Frank Jonas.
Yeah, just I'd like to thank Jane for the report. The only thing, and I think we brought this up at the pre-meeting, was the loss of income this year, obviously due to circumstances well beyond our control. Will that have a serious impact on 21-22's well, money available then?
Jane?
I think, sorry, when you say loss of income, are you talking about the destination as a whole, or the loss of income that I've had through not having partners being able to buy into activity?
No, I mean overall, you know, when we visitors visiting our museums and other attractions.
Yeah, so I know lots of businesses in the city are finding it really, really difficult. They have obviously had support from government, and they've been able to take on, some of them have taken advantage of grants, some of them have taken on loans, but it is still a really difficult situation. I think until we get into next year, see how next year goes, see how well recovery can be. Hopefully with the vaccination programme, things might start to get a little bit back to normal. But I think there will still be a struggle through next year. And certainly the national bodies are looking at recovery not until 2024 for domestic, 2025 for international. So it's a long haul. And I think us making sure we can support our tourism businesses in the city, which is what I really want to do, is key at this time.
Anything else, Frank? No. Okay. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Jane, for the report, and well done to the team on the work that you've done this year in what's been very challenging circumstances, and good luck, because certainly next year will also bring a number of challenges with Brexit. I just wanted to sort of get on record that the fact that the LEP obviously are looking at taking greater focus around tourism, and you have my support in getting the best out of the opportunities that presents and holding them to account on making sure they deliver and support for our tourism industry in Portsmouth. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to you, Stephen, for your support in that. And as you know, I'm lobbying them as well. And a pincer movement's always a good strategy. So we just need to keep that pressure up, because it's taken a very, very long time to get the LEP to be focusing on tourism and culture and leisure and creative industries. But they are now doing that, and we need to absolutely keep them focused on it, because it's very important. Councillor Udy?
No questions, but thank you for your report. And it's great to hear that the LEP like a bit of creative and culture industries and that stuff.
It's been a very long haul to get them to this point. Stephen and I have been on that road with them since 2011, I think. But we seem to be getting there, which is good. And Jane, thank you for what you've done and the work that the team's done this year. And I'm glad that we managed to find that extra bit of resource to give the partners the ability to advertise next year at a massive discount, because that's going to help them. And it means that we do still have that visitor guide going out, which is very important. And notable that our partners in Southampton actually don't have a visitor guide at the moment, which is something I know they are working on with their City of Culture bid coming up. But it's not something we just expect that everyone has this, but they don't. And the way Jay manages to pull it together and make it all stack up financially is pretty not far short of being a magic trick. So you do a great job with that, Jane, and it's greatly appreciated. So please pass on our thanks to the other team members as well, small though your team may be. Thanks very much. Okay, so decisions taken and noted. That takes us to item 5, which is the recycling bins trial that we had over the summer down on Southsea Common. Adrian Rosier.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. So this report is to inform on the outcomes of the trial installation of recycling bin provision across Southsea seafront open spaces using the allocated capital funding. As you know, this year's capital programme had an allocation of £50,000 towards litter management to Southsea Common, and we were asked to prioritise the installation of better recycling provision within the open spaces in order to meet the expectations and needs of our residents and visitors. We've previously trialled deploying recycling bins across the seafront open spaces. We've designated wire mesh cage bins for plastic bottles and metal cans, but this hasn't been particularly successful due to their large capacity, and they're susceptible to being used for general waste, and this then contaminates the collection. So we've been working with the waste disposal team, and we decided to use the bins from the same manufacturer as the general waste bins across the seafront, and introduced 36 recycling bins across a defined area covering Ladies Mile to the skate park, Castle Field and the bandstand, and that this would serve as a concentrated area on which to gauge the success of this trial. All the bins have colour-coded restricted apertures and posters to suit the designated recyclable material, and this therefore minimises the potential for contamination. It was also a good opportunity to review the layout of our bin provision generally, so that we had bins for all the assorted types of waste situated together. The report has an appendix that shows where they were located, and we used bins that were for plastic bottles, metal cans only, combined plastic bottle and metal cans, and for mixed recyclables that also allows for paper and card. We've been monitoring the collections since they were installed in August, and the figures in the report show that recycling levels have been very good, particularly if you exclude the 3 mixed recycling bins that were located close to the food outlet on Clarence Esplanade, with just under 94% of the collections being taken to the recycling facility. This is a far better outcome than we were expecting. We'd like to continue monitoring these bins for a further year, since they were only installed in August, and we'd like to fully understand the recycling rates and emptying frequencies from a full year. We've estimated the cost of servicing each additional bin, and these costs have been met within our current resources to date, but we'd need to revisit this if recycling provision is to be deployed citywide, as this would most likely lend itself to a dedicated team making recycling collections. There is some funding remaining in the capital allocation, and I've recommended in the report that we use this funding to add further recycling provision across the seafront, and to continue monitoring this for the next 12 months, so that we can bring a further report to you to inform on the volumes that have been collected, recycling rates, and the costs associated to collection, so that these can be accounted for if we're to introduce recycling provision to all parks and open spaces across the city, and where we'd need funding for both the purchase and servicing of those new bins. Thank you, Councillor Pett.
Thanks, Adrian. Councillor Jonas.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Adrian for the report. Obviously, we've spoken before. It's a move in the right direction. I should be very interested to see what happens at Castle, at the bandstand when that gets back into full swing. It's a very popular event on the weekend, one that I attend when there's a rock and roll band on. It'll be very good to see what the recycling bins are used that weekend. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. That's a very good point. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Adrian, for the report. Just to confirm my support for this and the work that you've done. Obviously, we've got a poor record on recycling in our city compared with other local authorities, so thanks for this. It's a good next step and a good way of delivering on our climate emergency agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Udy.
Thank you for your report, and I'm really astounded at the high take up to the recycling centre that we've got, and I'm hoping that we can put it through to other cabinets so we can maybe have some stuff in town and Commercial Road. That would be quite nice. And also thanks to Councillor Frank Jonas for making me really miss the bandstand as well, considering I could just see rain outside. I can't wait for next year. I hope it comes back. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all missed the bandstand. It is a highlight of the summer. Just to add in that I've also met with COLAS, because obviously we've got large bits of the city where we have waste bins where they are the responsible party for clearing them and not parks. It's one of the oddities of Portsmouth, and I've had discussions with them about how we might be able to expand recycling provision across their areas as well. Again, we'll need to do it by a trial so that we understand what the effectiveness of that is and what the potential cost liabilities are, but they're very enthusiastic about doing it, and I'm just waiting on them coming back to me to say how we might be able to set up an area for a trial. I've asked them initially to look at the area between Clarence Pier and the Blue Reef Aquarium to see if we could get something in place in there for the spring. So we are looking at that. obviously with the problem that we've got the sea defences works going on, and what I don't want to do is spend money on putting things in that we're then immediately having to remove again because we're demolishing seawalls. So we'll have to be smart about how we do it along the promenade areas and on the common. But as Claire's quite rightly said, we also need to address recycling provision in other public spaces, and that has to include the town centre provisions. So it's a work in progress, but it's gone better than I anticipated it when we started. It was the first thing I did on the first weekend of becoming cabinet member, was to say, can we get some signs up on some of those mesh bins and start getting people to at least think about recycling on the seafront. This has been the next step from that, and it's been so successful. We just got to hope it stays that way. And I've been working and talking to a number of the different green groups in the city who are also very supportive of it. And thanks to Fours and Eights for joining in with the Dinlow campaign over the summer, because they did their own stickers, and that's helped the project as well. So thanks to members, and thank you, Adrian, for the report, and let's crack on with the next stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on to item 6, and it's an update on what's going on with Portsmouth Creates, which has also been very exciting this year. So Claire Looney to report, please.
Thank you, councillors. I just wanted to bring a short report really to both highlight the fact that from a technical point of view, we have not been able to issue the service level agreement to Portsmouth Creates to date because of all the pandemic issues, meaning that they had to change their tack of what they were delivering and how they were delivering. So it's really to just let you know that this is about to happen again, but we'll take a slightly different view in light of both the work they have been doing over the pandemic period, but also their proposed revised direction of travel for the next year. But also it's to highlight the work they have been doing. So some of you I know were present when Portsmouth Creates launched in November last year. That does seem an incredibly long time ago, and their fantastic light installation, which they did in, of all places, the Cascades car park, was a very memorable evening for lots of different reasons. They continued their progress. They had a chief executive all ready to go, but then the pandemic, if you like, struck. Their staffing situation didn't go the way they anticipated, and the person they had identified then felt unable to take up the post because of other personal reasons. So for an organisation if in fact had no staff, it had a small bit of part-time administration, they have had a very challenging first year, as I'm sure you'll understand. However, what I wanted to do through this report is to really highlight what they have been doing and the significant impact that a brand new organisation is beginning to have across the city. So one of the first things they started with was coordinating the lobbying of the government, if you like, from the impact of the pandemic on cultural and wider cultural infrastructure. So they did a series of questionnaires, they collated those responses and put them back into the DCMS process during May. They continued their, if you like, pandemic response by coordinating Portsmouth and local, slightly wider artists to contribute designs, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, to be part of their colouring book, which was, they've rolled out 3,000 colouring books to families for whom they were a very significant and very welcome opportunity for activity during the first pandemic lockdown. They then went on and set up the We Believe Trail, which was an artist trail. So once the first lockdown finished, they again looked for opportunities to engage with artists to provide them with employment opportunities for small commissions using the existing poster board sites across the city. And that was very successful over the summer period, with 3 separate trails and 3 opportunities for you to see new artists' artworks happening. And the most recent example of where their work has been fairly innovative and looking to directly support those creative industries has been in the involvement of the We Create markets, which you may be aware has taken place in the Southsea, a previous Debenham stall, started in September and should be reaching a culmination this weekend with what's currently programmed as their final market. Clearly they had to put a hold on that in November. So the organisation has continued to demonstrate its value and its importance across the city. And this report is really both to highlight the work that they have been doing, which we do believe is quite significant in terms of galvanising or working with those artist community. Sorry, one aspect I did forget is they've also recognised the fact that for many artists, the opportunity to socially engage, share ideas, look at that creative practice has been very missing. So they've also put in an aspect of pastoral care for artists, which has been very welcomed in that aspect. And it's really that the recommendations are both to acknowledge that and also acknowledge the fact that we are going to have to make some adaptations to the service level agreement in order to ensure that it focuses on the areas they can deliver. I should also mention that all the external funding they had hoped to secure, which is significant funding from the University of Portsmouth and the Arts Council, has been secured and has remained. So none of that has been removed in that aspect at all. And I'd be very happy to take any questions.
Okay, it's probably just worth adding that they have now got a staff member on board to support them, who started literally 2-3 weeks ago. He's been seconded over from Arts Council South East to work with them because we're in Arts Council South West, so he's come over to join them for the next year to support them around fundraising and some of that partnership development, and is already making an impact. Councillor Jonas, please, while Councillor Morgan's having a walkabout.
Yes, Steve, I'd just like to thank Claire for the report, obviously, and feel for them because of what they've had to put up with this year with all the ongoing problems, and yet still managed to be where we are. And I look forward to the coming year when things are hopefully will get easier and things will fall into place, Claire. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, apologies. It says I've lost internet connection, but it's all fine.
We've still got you.
Yeah,
you never went away.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to thank what they've done this year in very, very challenging circumstances. They've been absolutely fantastic as an organisation, and it's only going to get even tougher, I think, frankly, in light of the creative sector being so hard hit this year. Could I just pick up, Claire, in terms of the point around the SLA? Whilst they have done a number of very good, I think, activities this year, how will we be measuring them then in terms of the outputs and the outcomes? Because we need to make sure we do maximise the value that the work that they do, and ultimately bring in the investment that our creative sector needs.
So you should understand, I was also talking to the Arts Council this week, who are one of the other primary funders, and we're both looking at ways of which we would look at detailed measures which look at it, but also that longer term impact and what the impact is in terms of supporting that cultural infrastructure as well as the individuals, as we appreciate it's for the benefit of the city, not necessarily just for individuals who are engaging with it, and what that looks like over the wider area. So we're in those discussions with the Arts Council, because I think as they're such a new and fledgling organisation, somehow we don't want to make the measurement process too onerous for them, but they absolutely have to be accountable for what they're doing with the money that we've been able to provide to them. So
to be really specific in terms of timescales for an SLA, when will we see that?
I'm hoping to have one in January with them.
Thank you.
Okay. Just probably worth adding as well that something because they keep managing to do stuff when they've only really had volunteers to date, but they've also been part of the Future Together programme that Shaping Portsmouth are running, that Steph Niltoski and myself launched back in the early part of the summer. So, some of that work is now starting to develop around support for creatives, and they're now working with what was Radiant Housing and is now Avri around mentoring support, masterclasses and other packages around some of those micro businesses that we've got in the creative industries and how they can support creatives to move forward. So that's something else that they've managed to do. Yes, it's important that we have that document in place, but to recognise that without an SLA, they've actually managed to deliver an awful lot this year is important. I just think we ought to actually put on record our thanks as a council to Tim Rusby, Pippa Bostock, to Paul Ganella, and to, who am I missing? Terry Hall. For their work over the last few months. I remember when the We Create market was about to open, that I made a call just to ask them if they were okay or if they needed the council to help with anything. And Tim actually answered the video call to me, covered in paint. I could see Pippa in the background, up a lad, also covered in paint. So we've been very, very lucky as a city to recruit a core bunch of trustees to launch that organisation, who are very hands-on and have given up an enormous amount of their personal time this year to keep that organisation moving forward and deliver some fantastic projects. So Claire, can we take an action please to write a formal thank you letter to the four of them and wish them all the best as they move forward and are in developing our relationship with them as a key strategic partner in the city.
Will do, thank you.
Okay, so those decisions are taken then, Lisa, thank you very much. And thank you, members.
Councillor Pitt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Claire, I do apologise. That was an incredibly polite intervention. You should have just said "oi."
I guess it's because there's two Claires.
Probably, yeah.
No, I was just going to say thank you, Claire, for all of that. I said in the briefing that I didn't know if I wanted to visit the market because of COVID and stuff, but I saw a lovely picture that print that Councillor Atwell tweeted the other day, and I was like, that's it, I'm in. I'm coming Sunday morning, so I'm going to turn up at the market on Sunday. And also, my husband showed me some amazing comics that someone's made about Portsmouth that are going to be there this weekend as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing those and probably buying them as well. Just wanted to say, I've spoken to Councillor Pitt and some other people about also creates involving kind of like drama and taking it from like an art-based thing, like drawing and stuff, and making stuff into kind of more of a, in the future, to have more of a performance-based element of Portsmouth Creates, because obviously that's a part of an art generalisation as well. But hopefully in years to come it'll be flourishing and incorporating so many different things. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire, and apologies for missing you there. That was inexcusable. And thank you, Claire Looney, for presenting. So, yep, decisions are taken and noted. Which takes us on to item 7 on the agenda, which is the Andrew Simpson Sailing Centre review, which is an information report. And that's David Evans is with us today.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. Sorry. Yeah, the report didn't change from the previous one in the sense that there was no updates, but the purpose of the report was to update you on the activities at the Andrew Simpson Watersports Centre during 2020, which has been a very difficult year for them, as you can imagine. However, it got even worse, or it started off even worse, with a significant increase in their gas bill, for which they had no idea, and they really had difficulty in paying. So Meredith Hughes instructed his energy team to go there to assist them in an attempt to sort it out, and fortunately they did. So that was a real great effort from the energy team, which we thank them for that. And ongoing with that, the new rates are the same as the City Council rates, so it will be easier and less expensive to run from utility points of view. I take on board what was said at the briefing meeting, that we will be looking towards much more sustainable energy there in the future, and conversations have already taken place with the chief exec, Richard Percy of the foundation, and he's all for moving forward with sustainability. The centre closed in March in line with the national COVID-19 lockdown, and all staff were furloughed, and so the building remained unoccupied. And despite me trying to get details of key holders, that became very difficult because even the chief exec was furloughed. But regular checks were made by the centre manager on a weekly basis, and I checked it myself to make sure that all was secure. So local updates on government funding were sent to the Andrew Simpson Foundation during that time, and the PCC awarded the centre a £25,000 retail hospitality and leisure grant, for which they are very grateful, and it really helped them move forward with that. And also they got the discretionary business rate for the centre. The maintenance for this centre has been initially quite expensive, partly because the centre was operated in a different way under the previous contractor, Parkwood. So some £300,000, in excess of £300,000 has been spent on this, but it's made such a big difference. The outside looks tremendous. It's secure with the shuttering. We've introduced solar PV panels on the roof, and we've had further work going on this year, which will come in the order of £150,000. So the centre reopened in July under COVID restrictions, but the centre managed to maintain their social distance, even with this type of activity, which is really very, very social. They managed to maintain that at all times, and activities having a maximum of 5 people with 1 instructor. The equipment was cleaned. I went there myself to see how they were doing this, and it was all cleaned, including all the wetsuits, gloves, etc. were all doused in a disinfecting solution, so it cleaned them up. So I was quite pleased with the way they were managing the safety of those predominantly young people who were using the site. They offered courses during the opening time in windsurfing, multi-activity, single SUPs, stand-up paddle boards, which is a very growing area of interest for them, and private tuition as well for household groups. So it was a really good opening for them, to such an extent that when I suggested that they start using PCC's website for marketing, and possibly even go out there in a much bigger and broader way, they couldn't take any more. They were actually full during the summer. So that's why they were able to achieve quite a decent income during that summer period. So that was really useful. Portsmouth Sports Council awarded them a grant of £750 towards new equipment during that time, which is being purchased. And of course, then it all had to close again with the new lockdown. Although this won't affect them too much, because this is the winter time, and this is the time when they start planning for the future, and which we've already started. All in all, the centre has done remarkably well this year, considering where they are. But their threats under a SWOT analysis, shall we say, would be the fact that children from local schools will not be using them for quite some time, because they have to catch up on academia. Portsmouth Grammar School is a regular user of the centre, but other schools are now much more reluctant because they do need to catch up with the schoolwork. However, we are looking to modify the approach to look at offering leadership and team building courses to other areas as well. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Councillor Frank Jonas.
Yes, two things, Steve. First thing is, David touched on it there about the local schools, which I'm very keen that they are offered the chance to use this water sports centre. After all, we are an island, and the more that the children can get used to the sea, the better. It's obviously, as restrictions ease, and it might be that we approach them a little bit more vigorously. The other thing is, I was pleased to see or hear that they're going to try and be a little bit more, shall we say, energy efficient, looking to the green side of things. They're in an ideal position, as we said before, to look at various forms of generating power. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, David, for the report. Very thorough and a really helpful update. It's been a little while since I've been up to the actual site, so perhaps we can talk offline around a visit so I can understand some of the issues, but thanks for the report today.
Okay, Councillor Uding.
Thank you for the report. I noted about you saying about an uptake in paddleboarding. I saw so many people paddleboarding in Southsea over the summer, to the point where it made me want to do it, and I'm not a particularly active person, so maybe I should, like I said, maybe not visit to the sports centre, but maybe I should find out more about stuff, because it actually seems really interesting. So thank you.
David, were you going to come in?
We've
lost you on picture, so we're relying on your icon flashing.
I don't know what's happened here, but
all right.
Councillor Morgan, they would be delighted. In fact, one of the things that we spoke about this week when I met with Richard Percy was for you to come along to this site. And in fact, what they want to do is have an open day whenever, as soon as they can, so that all members can go and have a look and have a go, Councillor Udy. So you can have a go there.
Oh, I'm going to that then. I'm not going to take part. I just want to watch Claire on a paddleboard.
Right now, thank you.
Perhaps we should go as a delegation, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it'll be. I know we used to do the dragon boat racing up at Lakeside when they ran that up there. Perhaps we should do SUP racing instead as political groups competing. That might be quite a thing, mightn't it? Scary. So just to add to that, yeah, there is some internal. Now we've got all the outside bits sorted out. There is some internal decor stuff to be done during the next year, and I've seen that Meredith Hughes has already got that on the list of things that he wants to look at around landlord's maintenance. I had a conversation with him around the other day to see which culture and leisure buildings he was considering for that list. So I think that will be there, David, and that we can get that in those internal cosmetic improvements made, especially around the change in facilities, which I think need improving.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But it is a great place to go for a visit. We hold sports council meetings up there in normals times fairly regularly, and although every time we had the sports council meeting up there, it absolutely hammered it down with rain. It's almost biblical proportions, didn't it? I think 3 times on the trot we all got soaked going up there, but just probably an opportunity there to just thank the sports council members for their ongoing commitment to that. We did manage to have one digital meeting during lockdown because David supports that group as well, and we had a bit of a catch-up discussion just to see how people were. Obviously there's everyone's a bit depressed because they haven't been able to do anywhere near as much as they normally would, and some organisations haven't been able to do anything at all, and we're all hoping for a better 2021. So thanks for your ongoing support for both of those things, David. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And the report's noted. So thank you very much. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip to item 9, the Victoria Park update, members, if that's okay. Remind officers who've already presented that they don't now need to stay in the meeting if they've got other things to be doing, because I don't like to waste your time. So if you need to be elsewhere, please go. And then because Mark Pembleton and Jane Lemaire will tag team the presentation of item 8, which is quite a long report because it brings in all the economic development bits. If we just do Laura's part now, and then we can spend the rest of the meeting on the economic development stuff. Is that okay?
Steve, my apologies. I've got another meeting now, so thank you ever so much for today.
Okay, no problem at all.
Thanks.
If you need updating on anything, just let them know.
Thank you.
Okay. Laura, over to you then.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. So speaking about the Reviving Victoria Park project today. Portsmouth City Council made an application to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for support in 2017, and then that application was refined and resubmitted in 2019, where the council received an initial grant of £251,000. We're going to use that funding over the next year to test the ideas that we outlined in our application. And to do this, we've hired 4 groups of consultants. So first is a design team to consider the landscape and the infrastructure of the park, a conservation team who will assess the kind of rich heritage on site and advise us which assets are most significant and that we should protect or explore further, and activity and interpretation team who will draw up a programme of events which will run through the lifetime of the project, and an interpretation plan for us to talk about the heritage that we have on site and engage the local community in those. And lastly, an evaluation team who will measure the impact of the project and our work. We know that local people, particularly the residents of Charles Dickens Ward, don't use the park and don't feel a sense of ownership over the space, and overcoming this is one of our main focuses. To aid this, public consultation is absolutely key to understand the barriers that are in place for those people and to address them. So the public consultation phase is now underway. Over October half term, we undertook a baseline survey in the park following social distancing guidelines. And then we entered our second lockdown, which meant that we had to review our public consultation for the rest of the year. And so now everything until the end of the year has shifted to either digital or telephone platforms. And we currently have an online survey which is live. That closes on the 18th of December, and the numbers so far are particularly healthy. So good interest from the people of Portsmouth. And before the end of the year, the design team will run a number of design workshops with a broad selection of stakeholders, and that includes local residents, representatives from community, disability, children's, veterans groups. So we are trying to get as many voices into the project. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Jonas.
Am I?
You are, yeah.
Thank you. Well, Laura, as we spoke before, when does the consultation period end is one. The other thing is that speaking to people that use parks in general and the Victoria Park, I think what we spoke about earlier about the toilet facilities, I would also add, what is the Wi-Fi connection like in the park? Is that good, or because it's something now that everybody you see is walking around with a mobile appliance? I don't know the term for it. You know how IT I am. Perhaps Claire could enlighten me with the younger generation, but everyone seems to be either walking around holding a phone or whatever you call it, an iPad. So I'm just interested in that. Is what is the connectivity in the park? The other thing is, and that's probably a thing that will reflect in the consultation, that children nowadays spend more time indoors than they ever did, like in my generation and my kids' generations, because that's just one of those things. That's how it is. You don't see them playing. You'd never see children playing in the streets, or very rarely. And my local big park, I suppose, is Alexandra Park, where you could fire a gun there and you wouldn't hit anybody. So, whilst I'm not generating the outcome of this consultation thing, we must bear in mind what the parks were originally for. They're green lungs, in especially Victoria Park, in the centre of very highly densely populated people. My father was brought up as a child in Cross Street off of Queen Street, and that was counted as a treat to go down there in those days. I mean, I know I'm going back to the horse and cart days, but even so, that's what the park was. It was a place that you went into, you saw grass, you actually then saw animals, which obviously I've heard from Councillor Pitt and from Councillor Udy and other councillors that they'd love the aviary and the small animal compounds kept. And I think that's what we ought to keep in mind. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Laura, for your efforts. And the idea from Claire about a Teletubby toilet actually is not as bad as it sounds.
Okay, Laura, there was a specific question about the end of the consultation date.
There was a few, yes.
18th of December, and then if you want to come back on the other parts.
Yeah, so the online survey will run until the 18th of December, but that's not the only consultation we're doing. So as I mentioned, we've got some workshops that the design team are running. It's actually next week. And then next year, there'll be further consultation undertaken by the activity team. They'll be undertaking a number of workshops themselves, some telephone interviews and some focus groups. And it's an iterative process. So as the designs are developed, according to what we're hearing, the feedback, the consultation, we'll make some changes. We'll take them back to the community and see if they're really meeting the needs. You know, co-design is a real key element of our project and our intentions for this project. And so that will kind of culminate in the spring next year. We hope that things will have returned to at least the point where we can do things outside in the park, hopefully have an open day and present some ideas to the public. There'll be more formed ideas at that point, and it will be a case of, you know, are you happy? Have we covered all the bases? And there'll be an opportunity for some tweaks at that point. But we hope that it will be really successful because we have built so much consultation into to get to that point. In regards to toilets, yes, we are hearing that loud and clear from councillors, from members of the public, and they will be included in the design. We know that young families, to be able to stay in the park for a meaningful amount of time, toilets on site are absolutely crucial. Wi-Fi provision, it'll be interesting to see if that comes up as part of the consultation as a desire for local people to kind of use the space more thoroughly. We know we want it to be more than one thing for all sorts of types of people, and if we hear that that's a real desire and need, it's certainly something that we can look at. We want to have a community hub space, and it's definitely feasible that Wi-Fi could be provided as part of that hub. And I think you just mentioned lastly about getting children outside, and certainly families from the Charles Dickens wards and live locally to the park within half an hour's walk. You know, that's a real broad selection of people from Portsmouth. We want to get them into the park. We know that we have good play provision at the moment. About 10 years ago, we had the play put on site. But we've heard that the provision for younger children is not as broad. So we know we want to inside and online, but can we bring something in the park that would engage them in the space too? And we will explore that.
Okay. Is that all right, Frank?
Just one thing then, Steve. And all right, the consultation's going there. Things are going to progress in the spring. But when actually do you think we'll see some positive action in the park? Bearing in mind, someone like myself is not getting any younger.
So as part of this year, we intend to put on some test events to understand if our activity programme would entice people into the space. So you'll see next year events taking place in the park. What they look like at this point, it's a bit of a question mark, but there'll be something. And then if we are successful with our second application for funding, we should have a decision in early 2022, and then from that point onwards, our activity plan, our programme of events that commences, that's throughout the 5-year lifetime of the project. It would be planned that we would break ground in autumn 2022 to start undertaking those changes that we presented to the public.
And that's a timeline that's kind of laid down by the National Lottery Heritage Fund in terms of how the process works. So I'd like it to be quicker too, Frank, but it is what it is when we're working with the national funder who require us to do an awful lot of work before we get to that point. But just to say that Jackie, who's working with Laura, is a bit of a force of nature around getting the community engaged and motivated. So I think we're going to see some great things coming forward from her over the next year as well. So, Councillor Udy.
Hello, Laura. Thank you for your report. I know you've not been in post for too long, but it sounds like you've done a huge amount of work since you've been in and getting more consultation done. I was just going to mention to Frank about the internet and the kids and stuff. So I guess there probably is quite good internet, not Wi-Fi, but like 4G, 5G is happening in Portsmouth now. We're getting city fibre. I thought we were going to just turn into a big Wi-Fi hotspot by some point in Portsmouth. But all the teenagers and some young adults, because I know some officers play at the council, is that Pokemon Go game. So a lot of people go to a park with their phones and you can see little monsters that you catch and people can battle them all together on their phones and stuff, and that's still really popular at Victoria Park. I remember when it first came out and everyone was just going to it because it's a good place because you can catch certain monsters in certain areas like densely populated and parks and stuff, so that's why people were flocking to parks to catch the rarest of the monsters. It's a fun game. That was a good summer, wasn't it? Everyone was peaceful when everyone had Pokemon Go on their phones. I don't know what to recommend to you, Laura, about having teenage provision, because I hung out in that park when I was a teenager, but I was doing things that I'm not allowed to talk about in this meeting. So it became one of those days. It was a teenage deviant at that point. So because Councillor Jonas said that park wasn't really used, so a lot of people, it kind of became a place where people just went to, wasn't it, to just be naughty, I suppose. But that was before the bigger park was but obviously the bigger park was built and it did bring in a lot more footfall. I take my children there a lot because obviously since becoming a councillor, I'm in the ward quite a lot. I bring my children with me to the council after school. I haven't done during COVID, obviously, but during that time, even at the weekends when I take my kids swimming, we normally go to Victoria Park afterwards, and it is always busy in there. But like I said, you said about the young children's provision, there isn't anything apart from the train that's been there for God knows how long. There's a new train. There's an extension to the train, wasn't there? Or we get
no, somebody set fire to the old one, so we've got a brand new one.
Have we?
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame, isn't it? So because the play provision that's in there is definitely inclined for older children, because if you want to get on the big slide, you've got to climb up the side of the wooden structure, and it gives me a heart attack every time my 6-year-old goes up. But even though she can, I feel like, why has no one fallen off that yet? Because it is such a big climb, and honestly, it's like that big between wooden slats to get to like a thing that's about 2-3 stories high. I don't know who thought of it, but it still really, really makes me nervous. Other than that, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next year in some events, because I'm definitely going to be hanging out in that park all the time when COVID's over.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks, Laura, for all the work you have done. How many roughly do we think we've had on the consultation so far? It's well over 1,000, isn't it?
Yes, we're nearly at 1,400 now.
Which is really good, and it does show how passionate people are about that park and what we are going to do in co-design with the local community there. So I remember that summer of Pokemon very, very well. We were getting petition signatures for Save the Lodge, so I was in the park most of that summer. So. Okay, thank you very much, Laura. The report's noted, and keep up the good work. You and Jackie are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go back now to item 8, which is a full update from Mark Pembleton and Jane Lemaire on the role of the economic development team over the last 7 or 8 months. Who's leading? Is it Mark?
Yeah, I'll start off, Councillor Pitt. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, this report has been asked for by Councillor Pitt just to basically update since the last time we did a full kind of economic development COVID update report, which was back in July. So you'll see in the report that we're covering, and I will cover the Portsmouth Business Helpline, the Business E-Bulletin, the Solent Network, crowdfunding, the business grants, the shaping work markets and future high streets and reopening high streets, commercial tenants and up down to number 11. And then Jane will take over from then. So it is a double act. Okay, so starting with the helpline, and it has been an amazing kind of facility which I think every business and in fact a lot of residents have found amazingly useful. They love the fact that they can phone up and they get a human voice on the other end who will go the extra mile to try and sort out all the problems that they've got. In the early days when obviously everything really hit, we had lots of people very emotional on the line. People were desperate, really, really desperate, and we were working tirelessly to try and help them to get money into their bank accounts as soon as was humanly possible. And I know that the whole team has, you know, saved so many businesses, just enabled them to grab hold of that loan or grab hold of that grant and just keep, whether it's furloughing staff or finding ways in which they can delay some of their payments for taxes, or they can delay rent payments or whatever it is. We've never left a stone unturned in trying to make sure that we help those businesses. And you'll see there that, as I say, it's been operational every week since back March the 20th. And it was the first kind of helpline to go live. Subsequently, the LEP's covered it. Lots of other councils have tried to imitate it. I've still got 10 people on the line. I think last week we dealt with about 140 calls, so it's getting pretty busy again. And in total, you'll see there we have a crib sheet which everybody sticks to so that we know what we're doing. We have a full data set which we gather of all the data, and the crib sheet's been updated 150 times since we started. And you'll see there that, I mean, these figures are now slightly out of date because this report's a few weeks old, but got there 2,300 businesses helped, 4,300 calls taken. So, and as I say, we even help people. The Portsmouth Bangladeshi Business Association have been brilliant, so we work with them to help Bengali speakers. We work with the Portsmouth Chinese Association, Albert, with Chinese speakers. So, you know, it doesn't matter what language business owners want to operate in, we've got ways of helping them. Then moving on to the business bulletin, the business e-bulletin, which goes out, which used to be a kind of monthly. It's moved to weekly, and in some cases twice weekly. And you'll see some of the data, 75 bulletins. In fact, this is slightly out of date now. I think we've done 77 bulletins since then. Open rate of about 40%, which is really good. And you'll see there we've now got 3,356 businesses signed up for it. And every week we're adding probably about another 28 subscribers, which is just brilliant. So its reach is second to none. And I often had a call from a business just recently, and they were just saying that they find that business e-bulletin absolutely invaluable. It makes them really feel that they're part of a city that cares. And you'll see there that the business pages are very, very popular and very used by mobile devices and so on. And obviously the business grants page is critical. Then we've been working right across the patch. So very early on, the LEP with ourselves and other councils set up the COVID-19 task force. led by the Chief Exec of the LEP. And there's also been the Local Resilience Forum, the Business and Economy Group, which we're represented on as well, looking across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And you'll see there that some of the benefits of kind of working across the Solent has been that, the grant schemes can be consistent across the patch, which has really helped businesses who might have sites in different parts of the Solent. Then in terms of some of the LEP work, just draw your attention to the Freeport Task and Finish group, which we sit on. And that's now putting forward the bid as the Solent LEP for a Freeport for us. And we've managed to get Portsmouth International Port included, along with Southampton, and probably along with the airport. And it's looking like Dunsbury will be one of the key sites. They're one of the tax sites. So we've done a lot of work to convince the LEP and their consultants that it has to be a bid which includes sites within Southampton and Portsmouth. So that's very, very exciting, because that will be a real game changer for the port, but also for the tax sites like Dunsbury. Then we've worked with the LEP with their new loan scheme, and we've been trying to help some local businesses to access that. The LEP's also done a crowdfunding scheme, which again, they copied Portsmouth's Pay It Forward scheme, which has been so successful. So we've been, done well with the LEP there. Then there's been funding which came forward from MHCLG to basically look for schemes that were kind of shovel ready. We had two successes within Portsmouth. One is the Centre for Enzyme Innovation, which is part of the kind of plastic revolution work at the University of Portsmouth. So they've now got an addition to that, which is for small businesses to come and access that research excellence, and of course the Solent-wide Nutrients Programme, which is also led by PCC. Then just to move on, I'll deal with the LEP's recovery plan. We did a lot of work with the LEP and with Lichfields to influence the recovery plan. And as Councillor Pitt said a bit earlier, I think finally we're having a bit of a breakthrough in terms of them now including a much stronger element around the creative and cultural sector and the visitor economy and the high street and retail, which is really pleasing. So although and marine and maritime is obviously still a key focus, which is brilliant because we want that as well for the city. And then I'll just go into the Pay It Forward scheme, which we've now, you'll see the figures there. This has been funding of last resort for a lot of businesses that have completely been missed, the kind of forgotten businesses from government financial help, of which there have been a good number across the country and a number in Portsmouth. Fortunately, we've had this Pay It Forward scheme, which has really helped. And as I say there, we've had 130 businesses have a look at it. So far, we've managed to support, you'll see there, 17 businesses, and in total the £43,000 that the council's kind of put into that, it's actually leaving another 160,000. So in total those businesses have benefited from about £204,000 since the scheme's been operational. And then, as I say, the LEP has also had its own scheme, which you'll see there. So in total the kind of crowdfunding has brought in about 291,000. Then moving on to the business grants, which primarily have come from government. So those have been ones which we've worked with our business rates team, IT, corporate communications and finance to get out that money to businesses. And Steve will know, there've been so many cases where businesses did not realise that they were eligible for these business grants. And we've phoned them up and said, yes, you are eligible. Please put in an application. Oh, gosh, really? Yes, actually, you're eligible for £25,000. Oh, gosh. So we've had so many of those cases. So we've done so well to get that money out, and 100% of the discretionary grant I put there was got out within 8 weeks. And in total, we supported 3,500 businesses with a total of 46 million. That includes the small business grants, the retail, leisure and hospitality grants, and obviously the business rate holiday. And now we're just working through the next lot of grants. There's now the local restriction support grant, closed addendum, which was the grant for businesses who were forced to close during the national lockdown. So update to that is that we've now, had about 1.32 million paid out of that 8.2 million to 845 companies. And the latest, we had some guidance out 2 days ago for the wet pubs that are wet led. we'll be getting an additional £1,000. So again, that will go live next week. And then we've had the new 2-week money for the local restriction support grant closed. And then finally, there's the local restriction support grant open and the ARG, the additional restriction grant, both of which are about to go live to help businesses again. So it is such a complicated picture that for lots of businesses, having a phone number that they can phone and we can talk them through the application and how to do it and which one fits for them has really helped both the companies themselves to get the money, but also our finance colleagues who don't get inundated with so many ineligible applications. Councillor Pitt referred to the Shaping Portsmouth Future Together initiative, which has been an absolute brilliant setup by Councillor Pitt and Steph from Shaping. You'll see the key players there, and you'll see the under 4.6, the kind of initiatives, the objectives of the group. And I'll just draw your attention to a few of the successes that we've had with that group coming together. And Chamber of Solutions has been absolutely brilliant. 203 businesses there benefited from 6 masterclasses. Everything from dealing with Brexit to how do you take on get application for Kickstarters, about employee well-being. And then the Shaping Cluster Building project has been really successful, using the reopening high streets money to basically work with our trader associations, and Shaping has been so good at doing that. Particularly Sam, who works for Shaping, has worked with members of my team out there with the businesses to get those associations to work much better around reopening high streets safely. And then the Go Christmas campaign, which has been part of that, which initially was all about click and collect and was all about offers, online offers, trying to get people to buy locally in independent shops by using that Go Christmas online campaign. That's now been diversified, obviously, to getting people to buy locally with the Small Business Saturday campaign. And then we've had the free contactless menu and local My Stores app pilots, which have just been great ways that Shaping's helped us to reach some of those small businesses to pilot the contactless menu app and the local My Stores app. And then the markets, we've maintained markets right through kind of this period, particularly the ones for essentials. So the fresh fruit and veg obviously have kept operating, as have some of the other essential household items. Just recently, they're back open again. And now if you're down Commercial Road, you'll see that we've actually now moved the market. So that's been really successful. All the traders were consulted and they all very happy with their new possessions. And we've even got 4 or 5 stalls of a Christmas market kind of incorporated within it in a really safe COVID way. And I've got marshals out there, and we've got loads of volunteers from the Hive working on Commercial Road with the traders, with the retail owners of the shops, the managers, to make sure that it is safe for people. And it's worked really, really well. And all the retailers are really happy with the way Commercial Road has been reopened in a COVID secure way. And then I won't mention the We Create market because that's already been dealt with by Claire. And then the Future High Streets bid, we're still, I'm afraid, waiting for government to come back on that to find out whether we've been successful. Reopening high streets, I think I kind of mentioned that. That has also been a big project, really, that Economic Development's worked with Transport Licensing and Public Health, basically to try and help our businesses to have things like suspended parking spaces in order to be able to have more, an additional license to put their chairs and tables, and in some cases umbrellas outside. And obviously we've been working closely with those businesses during Tier 2 because they can use outdoor alfresco dining to try and keep their businesses going. And then we've worked on the Castle Road Active Travel Scheme, again, making sure that the businesses are really happy with that and they've had their input to that. So it's all been responding to kind of business need, as in Palmerston Road South intervention, which has gone down really, really well with the local businesses, but also with the residents as well. And then just finally picking up some of the work through SIL. Councillors will know that there's been a great support for the use of SIL to help with some of these things, like the larger tree pit in Palmerston Road Precinct. So we've now got a 30-foot tree there, and enhanced light, Christmas light motifs down Fratton Road, London Road and Kingston Road using some SIL. So this year we've got the best Christmas lights I think we've ever had in the city, covering more areas with more high quality lights, which I think everybody's really appreciated during these really dark times. And then the council's enterprise centres, which come under economic development, just to really just show that they have been supported, the businesses within those centres have been supported right through this difficult time. They've got their grants as quickly as possible, and that's enabled them to keep paying their rents because they've used the grant payments to pay rent. So that's been really, really positive. And you'll see there just the kind of last paragraph there in terms of the impact. It's amazing. We've actually only lost 2 businesses have vacated. Flex is one there, and a recruitment company. But the thing is, overall, we've had 7 new tenants at Victory, 1 new letting at Challenge, and 2 new ones at Portsmouth Enterprise Centre. So we've still got 124 businesses in those 3 centres. So again, I think it's a tremendous hard work from Alan Lowe and his amazing team at the Enterprise Centres to maintain that. And then finally, Tom Southall and the property team just added in a bit here to say 59 tenants have been supported with rescheduling rental payments, total of £1 million in rent. So that's another big achievement by Tom and his team. And at that juncture, I'll hand over to you, Jane.
Shall we just break for 2 seconds? By the time we get to the end of Jane's bit, it'll be quite a long time since the bits that you started on first. If that's all right, Jane, we'll just do members' questions on Mark's part, and then we'll come back to you. Councillor Jonas, any questions for Mark Pembleton?
It's not questions, actually, Steve. It's just well done, really. I mean, what a report. And like you said, this is a city that cares. Quite a few businesses have been in touch with me over the period, and I've got to say, apart from one case that you couldn't deal with, and that wasn't anything to do with you, it's been a great success. I also know one of the new businesses that started up in the Portsmouth Enterprise Centre. So again, well done to you. But I cannot say enough. Well done to the team for getting behind and supporting Portsmouth businesses, which we will all benefit from when we start to come out of this terrible situation we're in. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Much appreciated.
Claire, anything?
Not really, just to thank you as well. That was a lot of information to process, and you did it perfectly. Thank you. I agree with Councillor Jonas about supporting business. I think we'll have a lot more independent businesses coming out of COVID. I know a few businesses that started up during COVID as well. A friend of mine moved her furniture business into the Makers Guild, and she is doing fantastically. She took the plunge, and I'm hoping that more people decide to do that, and we as a city and a council can support those people to do that post-COVID especially. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Claire. I mean, I think it's something that we really want to try and reach out to people to help and encourage them to start new businesses, because you're absolutely right. From these difficult times, there are real market opportunities always, and if people are quick to grab hold of that, it's really exciting. And there is some good support. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the comprehensive spending review, the government's put further funding in for starter loans. So there's another 1,000 starter loans available for people to go for. So we're trying to help businesses to look for those starter loans as well. But you're absolutely right. And the other thing is we're working with Shaping and looking at the recovery next year. And we're really looking for clever work. You know, the pop-up business school that we did that was really, really good. Loads of people started their business with the pop-up business school. We want to try and get that so it's a permanent feature within the city, and that we kind of basically deliver that in the city with Shaping. So we're working on that right now. So that hopefully will be in place very early on next year.
That's my old friend Simon Payne, and what a great job he does with that project.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, thank you to you and the team for all the support you've given over the last 8-9 months now to local businesses, but also to me. I don't think there's been a single occasion when I've either picked up the phone or fired off an email when a business has been in direct contact with me where I've waited more than a couple of hours for either you or Kim or somebody else to come straight back, engaging with those people. I've seen endless thank you emails flying backwards and forwards, and loads of testimonials from people saying that you've helped save their business. And apart from anything else, the release in the mental anxiety, as you referred to right at the beginning of the report, having a real life person on the other end of the phone who can actually help. I'm absolutely 100% 100% convinced that there are a significant number of businesses in this city that would not still be in existence if it hadn't been for the work that you've done. So huge congratulations, and please pass on my thanks to every single member of the team for what they've done.
I will do, Steve. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Jane?
Hello. Right, so just to update you about some further work that we've been doing with within the economic development, but more on the skills and employment side. So the Digital Enablement Project is another benefit of the Future Together work with Shaping Portsmouth, and we have partnership with Portsmouth Hive or our local housing association, support charities, as well as representatives from within Portsmouth City Council for culture, education, adult services, and our skills and economic development teams. To start off with, in COVID, there was the fast distribution of Department of Education funded IT equipment, and then various smaller charitable funded items that have gone out to help overcome digital exclusion across the city. But it's been relatively small scale, and I think we're all very aware that there is significant work that still needs to be done. The partnership is looking about how we can use partnership together to support each other to make more effective use of our small amount of digital training funding which comes into the city through things like the Learning Place and is delivered within our library services, and how we can increase the digital drop-in across the city to hopefully break down barriers for the high number of adults and families that we know have limited or no IT access. It's very difficult for us to articulate exactly how much digital exclusion there is across the city, but we know on a more anecdotal basis that it's impacting heavily on those that are searching for employment, as well as have social isolation challenges because of it. So we're continuing to explore how the partnership can harness those business communities that are keen to support, to offer IT support for those that are fortunate enough to actually receive IT items, but also to increase the amount of IT that we're getting out across the city and increase the way that we're working with the internet to ensure that more households have access to that. And that's very much an ongoing project that has been highlighted through COVID, but is certainly not a COVID-related issue and needs to continue in the long term to ensure that our residents have access to that ever-essential digital world. So the Youth Hub and Project 1624 is the next subject. We were approached by DWP to bid for some funding to create a youth hub in the city. This work started back in July. It has taken a little while to go through, and we still don't have fully approval, but we've had some very positive noises this week, and we hope to have funding in place for February 21. This will allow us to employ 3 additional staff that will focus on outreach across the city to engage young people, recognising that in July 2020, 19% of our universal credit claimants were aged between 16 and 24. And we recognise that this group is particularly disadvantaged because they have less experience in the employment market than most adults and less opportunities to explore and build careers. We know that sectors like hospitality and retail are seeing reduced employment, and we know that that's where a lot of young people begin their career development. So we're really looking forward to hopefully moving this to a place where we can go live and focus. The Project 1624 is another Shaping Portsmouth project that's running alongside this, very much working with our skills providers to try and ensure that our colleges and our independent training providers are working together to make sure that we have a full and comprehensive provision to this age group, and that we're working intelligently together to make that as accessible for individuals and pulling together groups. Because what we have are some amazing skills providers, but we need to have that communication piece between all of our adults, but particularly our young people, to make that work and to make sure that that skills provision is meeting the needs of our businesses rather than just potential offers that are there. So the 16 to 24 project has only just started, but we hope to link that more closely to the Youth Hub if we get approval for funding on that. And we've also applied separately to some business support to try and create a digital Youth Hub, because the DWP money doesn't fund a digital response. And we are mindful that for a lot of young people, their preferred way to access support is remotely via web and internet browser support, again, which links into our other projects that we're running. Kickstart, for those of you that are not familiar with the project, is aimed at 16 to 24-year-old UC claimants. It's part of the Plan for Jobs 2020 released back in July, and has just gone live, offering 6 months at national minimum wage for 25 hours a week for businesses to support work placements. And each business that hosts a placement receives a grant of £1,500 to support them to set up a young person to take them into their employment. Pleased to announce that this week the council's actually been approved as a gateway organisation for that. So our cohort 1 and 2 have just received approval, which is 86 placements coming into the city. 50 of those will be hosted within Portsmouth City Council, where colleagues have been extremely enthusiastic to support young people coming in and starting to build careers for those 6-month periods, and 36 external partners. And we're continuing to work with more and more external partners who are looking to take up the Kickstart opportunity to support their own business recovery as we move through this. We're just going through the process of signing off our grant paperwork for that to actually sort of get it live, and then we will be delivering that, again working really closely with our skills partners in Shaping Portsmouth to promote that. And we're doing numerous webinars and events to try and really promote the advantage of Kickstart to our business community. Portsmouth City Council do a significant amount of unemployment support work. So just to give you a bit of an update there, we know that our current unemployment is just under 10,000 in the city. And we know that we have significant representation within that group of the 16 to 24-year-olds and 50 plus, which are particularly concerning target areas for us. We deliver the Work and Health Programme, which is a Job Centre plus DWP funded programme. We've been doing that for just over 2 years, and we have another 2 years to run on that contract. That supports our long-term unemployed into work, overcoming multiple health barriers. And in 2020, we've so far supported around 352 adults. And the report says 65 into work, but actually we're now at 73 of those adults have moved into employment. Which is incredible that we've managed to continue to keep that pace of work up during difficult times, particularly when a high number of people in the Work and Health programme are shielded or have significant vulnerabilities. But lots of enthusiasm from the adults involved in that programme to get into work. We also have commenced the JETS programme, which is Job Entry Targeted Support. This is probably the quickest DWP funded programme in terms of putting together. Again, came out from an announcement in the Plan for Jobs 2020 in July. We went live in October with 9 new advisors. So far, we've not secured 5 jobs. I'm pleased to announce as of today, we've secured 15 jobs for our adults who are unemployed due to COVID and have had unemployment of more than 15 weeks. So that's excellent news. And our Solent employment support programme, which currently supports a high number, 50 vulnerable adults with long-term health barriers and complex barriers to work. We've now moved 9 adults into work in 2020. So that's, again, an excellent achievement from the team that have worked very hard and have continued to deliver throughout the whole COVID period, moving very rapidly to remote with some very vulnerable adults, a lot of whom received a lot of support to cope with the isolation that came with the initial lockdown in particular. Our adult skills continues to deliver through the Learning Place, who deliver our adult and community grant funded provision from the Employment and Skills Agency, and a small amount of additional funding that comes via things like the Good Things Foundation that work with Google, and we're part of the Google Digital Garage to do some of our low-level entry support into IT, as well as some more access courses that help people to be able to do basic things like send emails and access the internet, as well as do job applications. Most of the work from the Learning Place is focused around moving people towards jobs, but also dealing with healthy living and overcoming social isolation, which has been particularly challenging, but the provision has continued throughout this year. During lockdown, we had some lovely examples. So 30 adults achieved their functional skills in maths and English during the lockdown period using the centre assessment grades. And 8 of those adults have now moved on, taken their maths level 2, which is GCSE level, with an 87.5%. And just as a little cheering note today, the remaining individual retakes her exam next week. This particular lady, who I haven't yet managed to make into a case study, but she started with us on some of our social courses about 5 years ago, where she was assessed as being entry level 2, which is about the math skills of a 7-year-old. She is about to retake her maths level 2, which is GCSE level. And I believe she's recently celebrated her 70th birthday. So she is a woman of some conviction. We also have the Portsmouth Pledge, which works with a lot of this work that we're talking, and particularly with our Shaping Portsmouth colleagues. The Portsmouth Pledge is going to be launched at the Shaping Portsmouth conference on the 29th of January, and it's very much a partnership of all of our colleges and our local skills providers to provide a one-stop access to our businesses to ensure that we are using as much of the funding that is coming into the city through things like the adult education budget to provide as much funded training to our businesses and to our adults who are seeking work, so that we can really match that up and make the most of the limited funding that is around. And the Portsmouth Pledge, as I said, will launch at the Shaping Portsmouth conference. And then linked into all of this is our Skills and Workforce Strategy 2020 to 2025, which is approved by Cabinet in November. This is very much a strategy by the city for the city, and we'll be reporting as well through our Shaping Skills group and the Portsmouth Leaders Group, Business Leaders Group, which will continue that cities-wide ownership and hopefully really highlight and continue to pull the business community into the solutions that we're working on within our economic development team to make sure that we have a really collaborative approach moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Councillor Jonas?
Yes, Jane. Very comprehensive. Thank you very much. And I've got to say, considering the problems and hurdles that you've had to jump through in the last 8 to 9 months, it's very impressive. And my prior congratulations. Let's hope the 70-year-old passes her exams, because that gives us hope for everybody. Well done.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Councillor Udy.
Hello, thank you. I do have a question before I'll make a brief comment. You said about the Kickstart programme, about taking young people on as trainees or whatever in some places. Can you tell me if they're going to be paid for their labour?
Oh, they are. Sorry. Yes, they absolutely are. The real value in this scheme is that they become employees for a period of 6 months, 25 hours a week, and they need to be paid at least the national minimum wage. So they do get paid. This takes young people off universal credit. And obviously the aim is that we hope that these young people will be able to secure some amazing experience, hopefully long-term unemployment with the businesses that are hosting, but if not, will be placed in much better position to go out into the employment market. And part of the work that we'll be doing, working with hopefully the new Youth Hub, is to make sure that they get plenty of skills and support so that they're retained in employment afterwards. So yes, absolutely, they are all paid for this 25 hours a week, and employers can take them on for more hours or pay them more if that's something that they can do. So it's a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you. It's great that that kind of service kind of exists now, because when I was that age, like, you kind of had connections and up for it and stuff, and that kind of really doesn't exist too much anymore, does it? So I'm very, very, very happy that that they're doing something, they're getting skills. Especially when I didn't have a job, I kind of really struggled for quite a long time because all I could do was pour pints. I miss pouring pints even now.
What's wrong with pouring pints?
No, not at all. But now I even have a degree after leaving school for GCSE, I still really miss working in a pub, to the point where I'm trying to convince my husband to let me go back, but I don't think he wants me to. Apparently I've got to earn all the money now that I have the degree, so trying to pull me away from that. I just want to say about the 70-year-old woman as well, that's amazing. Never too old to learn.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And Jane, thanks to you. And another example of a small but incredibly effective team that we have at PCC doing this work. And I've really enjoyed, since we reconfigured the portfolios a while back and all the economic development and skills stuff came under me, working very closely with Jane, but also with Mark as well. And I know they work closely together. and a lot of these projects, the amount of partnership working that's going on across the city at the moment. I might have only been a councillor for 5 years, but I've been involved in shaping since it was literally before it was formed, and I've never known the amount of positivity and the determination there is at the moment for everybody to pitch in and help each other. No matter whether they're a small business or whether one of our major employers, everybody is taking part in this initiative and trying to come up with imaginative ways to support those people in the community who need it, whether they're businesses or they're people who need to get back into work or start up a new business or get some retraining. The amount of mutual support that's going on is, I think, unprecedented. And I know from the conversations I've had with the LEP, they're very impressed how Portsmouth is responding to the pandemic, and how we've been doing that in a very collaborative and actually quite a cross-party way as well, which is important. So thank you both for all that you've been doing. The report is duly noted, all of it in its entirety, which is a lot. We better not wait so long for another update next time. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks to Councillor Frank Jonas and Councillor Kay Udy. Just for anyone watching, I know Councillor Morgan had to leave to go to another meeting earlier on, and Graham Heaney had to go back to work after doing his deputation. Thanks to all the officers who've been with us today. And on that note, I can declare the meeting closed. And if I don't see any of you again, wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy Christmas, Claire and your family, Steve and your family, and thanks to all the officers in my shadow portfolio.
Thanks, Frank. And Merry Christmas to you all too.
No, Joe.
Feliz Navidad. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. I'll wait till you have.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I've got to go properly because I've got to get back to the training course, but I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
See you soon.